The verdict is in, and it's a favorable one for the Bison. North Dakota State has earned the 2 seed in the FCS playoffs, dropping only 1 spot in the rankings following Saturday's defeat at South Dakota. With a top 2 seed, NDSU now gets home field advantage for the entire playoffs up until the championship in Frisco on Monday, January 6th. The Bison's path to the title game looks like this for the first few rounds. After a bye, North Dakota State will host either Northern Arizona or 15-seeded Abilene Christian. And if the Bison can win that game, they could face 7-seeded Mercer in the quarterfinals a week later. We could also see a Dakota marker rematch in the Fargo Dome in the semifinals, with NDSU being the 2 seed and the back-to-back champion South Dakota State Jackrabbits as the 3. This is how the top 8 seeds ultimately shook out for the playoffs after Saturday's craziness in Vermillion. No surprise that unbeaten Montana State takes the top seed, but both SDSU and South Dakota stay where they were last week in 3rd and 4th, despite the Coyotes defeating the Bison Saturday. The Missouri Valley and the Big Sky each get 3 of the top 8 seeds, with the Big Sky bringing 5 teams to the playoffs versus the Valley bringing 4. So that first matchup for North Dakota State after the bye is against the winner of Saturday's contest between NAU and ACU. Unseeded Lumberjacks are one of the last teams into the field, making the playoffs for the first time since 2017. Wildcats, meanwhile, have one of the best offenses in the FCS, averaging close to 480 yards and 35 points per game. Bison hosts this second-round battle December 7th at 2 o'clock.